Hi, this is Chris Gardner again. And one of the questions that we've been asked is, what exactly do we mean when we say geometric growth? Now, geometric growth, when you can get that into a business, is an incredibly powerful concept. It's really synonymous. It's the same as exponential growth. And the thing about geometric growth is it's actually really difficult for the human brain to really understand or grasp it, because most things that happen in life are linear, they're not geometric. So the way to think, or the way I find it helpful to understand geometric growth, is it's really asking the question, how long would something take to double in size? And that could be a population growth, but in our context we're often talking about business, of course. So how long would it take for a business to double in size, and what's the amount of growth that you have to put in to achieve that doubling rate as quickly as possible? So to illustrate that, there's a useful rule, if you like, or a mathematical idea, which is called the rule of 72. And that is, if you take any rate of growth, and you could apply it to an interest rate as well, if you like, on savings, but if you take a percentage growth, divide that percentage into 72, it's between 70 and 72, it's an approximate idea. And the answer you get is the number of, or how long it will take for something to double in size. Okay, it's called the rule of 72. So, for example, if you were growing your business at, say, 10% per year, then you would be doubling the business in about 7 years, because 10% goes into 70 or 72 about 7 times. So it's about 7 years, right? So if you're growing at 10%, then you're going to be doubling the size of your business if you continue to do that in about 7 years. Obviously, if you were growing at 7%, it would take you 10 years to double, so you can start to see the impact. Conversely, go the other way. If you were growing it at a faster rate, say 30, maybe 35% per year, then in only 2 years you'd have doubled the size. So this is the scale of the impact of geometric growth and why it's so important. So let me give you another specific set of numbers to illustrate the point. Now imagine you've got a business and it's a small business, so it's running at about, let's say, 300,000 of sales per year, right? And if you could grow that business at 10%, then you know it would take you 7 years, or about 7 years, to double. But if you were growing at 10% per year for 5 years, then at the end of the 5th year, your revenues, if you're starting at 300,000, would be just under 500,000, 483 actually. So after 5 years, growing at 10%, you've grown from 300,000 to nearly 500,000. So that might feel like good growth to you. Now, let's think about the same business, but instead of growing it at 10% per year, that one did, we aim to grow it and design to grow it at 30% per year. The same 5-year period, all right? Now, at the end of those 5 years, the revenues then are 1.113 million, so just over £1 million of sales in 5 years. So there's the same business, starting at 300,000 and at growing at 10%. After 5 years, it's still less than £500,000 in revenue at 10%. At 30%, it's more than £1 million. It's more than double the size of the other version, right? That's the difference between 10% and 30%. So then, of course, the question is, well, fine, Chris, I'd like to grow my business at 30%, not 10%. How can I do that? And that's, again, if you're talking in geometric terms, that's where compounding comes into play, because you can have one specific initiative that could add 30% easily, and much more actually, but you can have one that, say, adds 10% per year. Well, implement that and be structured in the approach, and you'll get 10% growth just from that one idea. Now add a second and a third idea, both also, say, getting 10% growth, and it's so achievable to do. Now those three things are not getting 30% growth. It's not 3 lots of 10, because if you design it well, they can compound each other. So you can get 10 plus 10 plus 10, actually not giving 30%, but giving more like 33%. Or even if they have an even bigger compounding effect, then if you put in the first one and then the second one, it enhances the first one on its own. And so compounding effect, you could be getting 40, even 50% from 3 good ideas, none of which in themselves is going to change the world, but collectively you're putting compound growth in. So the point about this, and the message I'd like to leave you within this video is to think about geometric growth and the power that that has, the way that could affect your thinking in terms of what you're aiming for and the end point. And secondly, then how can you put what initiatives can you put into the business that are going to put incremental growth, but then you combine them to create the geometric effect. That's the power of geometric growth. It changes the scale of business massively, and it just makes life a lot easier. I hope you find that helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video.